What is up, Steeler Nation? Welcome back to the next edition of the Steeler Fanatic. I am Dakota, your Steeler Fanatic. Thanks for joining me again this week. As I told you last week, this is my post-draft reaction video, and this is Monday after the draft, and the more I thought about it, the more excited I got about this draft. Because I have to be honest, at first I was not excited about this draft. I'll tell you a little story about it. We got a lot to talk about. I'll get into it here in just a second. I was at work during the draft, and the building that I was working in, you're not allowed to have phones, so I had to keep going out to my truck and checking my phone for the updates. And as I said before, I was hoping we would get Vander Esch or Evans. And like I said also last week, that they went before 28, but that's what happens when you play 13-3. And you got low draft picks, and it's hard, to pick somebody out good. Getting right into it, I'm gonna go with. At first, I was really disappointed in the pick of Terrell Edmunds. I was really hoping we would address the middle linebacker situation right away, but we didn't. We went with safety. We picked up Edmunds. I think even Edmunds was surprised he got picked in the first round because, he was supposed to be a third or fourth round pick, and he even said he was in the bathroom when he got a phone call from Mike Tomlin, and he had to come out with his pants down to tell that he was getting drafted. So that's a pretty good story. That's a good one to remember, especially if he ends up being a good player, which, hopefully he does. But getting right into it, right, like I said, my dad was keeping me updated on the draft, and really disappointing when Vander Esch went to the stinking Cowboys of all teams, and Evans went to the Titans. But it is what it is. They made smart picks. But getting Terrell Edmunds, I never heard of him before. I knew his brother Tremaine. I heard of his brother, because I figured Tremaine would have been a top 10 pick. But Terrell, I've never heard of him before. I see a text message come across my phone. This Pittsburgh Steelers drafted Terrell Evans. I'm like, who? I never heard of him before. I had to look up YouTube videos of him just to see. He's got a natural ability. He's a ball hawk, and he's big. He's big, and but I was really hoping we didn't address safety. Like I said, there were other choices in there, like Malik Jefferson from Texas or Josey Jewell from Iowa. Josey Jewell was a natural linebacker. He's stocky, and he just has a nose for the football. Malik Jefferson, I'm a Hook 'em Horns fan, so it would have been cool to see us pick him up. But hey, Terrell Evans it was. And I have read and seen and heard that we're actually considering moving him down to middle linebacker. He's the same size as Shazier, actually a little bigger than Shazier when he got drafted. And he's just as fast, runs a 4.5. He's actually a little better tackler than Shazier, which is really hard for me to say because I'm a big Shazier fan. Well, speaking of Shazier, how awesome was it to see him walk down there to make the announcement of the draft? That was awesome. That gave me chills, and I had to watch it on Facebook after it happened. That was just awesome. I'm so glad to see that he's walking again, and that he's able to walk. As I said before, I don't care if he ever plays football again. That'd be great, but I just want to be able to walk and have a somewhat normal life. And it was so great to see him walking down that to make that announcement. That was awesome. So, but back to Terrell Edmunds, I do think we will try him at middle linebacker. We'll see when camp starts exactly what we plan on doing with him. I do hope that we do try him at middle linebacker because 4-5 filling the gaps. And sideline to sideline, that'll be tough to run around. So that'll be interesting to see what we do with him. I'll get a little more into why I think we're going to move him down to middle linebacker in just a second when I talk more about our next couple of drafts. Next draft, James Washington. Next draft pick, second round, James Washington. How that was a steal. He reminds me so much of Antonio Brown. I had heard of him, and I knew who he was because, again, I'm a Texas fan, Big 12 fan. James Washington, it was a big steal. He was wide receiver, the best wide receiver in college football. He won that award, and I cannot believe he fell as far as he did in the second round to us. I actually think he was probably the best wide receiver in the draft. He wins the jump ball. He's not the fastest, but he runs a 4.5, but he's also fast when you put the pads on. You can run a 4.5 all day, but if you put the pads on and run a 5.5, there's a big difference. He's consistent off in pads and out of pads. So it's exciting to see. I think he's a big playmaker. And I do think he's a big pickup for where we got rid of Martavis Bryant for the draft, for the third round draft pick. Which, hey, we got rid of Marty B, and sorry about that. I kind of saw it coming, but I kind of didn't. Pittsburgh's really, really good about hiding what their plans are with stuff. To me, Martavis Bryant I was expecting to see him suit up in September, and now he's a Raider. So I do think James Washington was brought in to replace Martavis Bryant. I do think he's going to have a quick and, if not automatic impact. I think he's going to be an impact right away. Because just because of his ability, he just reminds me so much of Antonio Brown. His playmaking ability, his route running, he's got really good route running. So I really do think Washington was a great steal for us. I can't believe he fell as far as he did to us. And he's going to cause a lot of problems for defenses because if he's as good as what I think he's capable of, you got Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Le'Veon Bell, who can line up wide receiver and play it really well. And now James Washington, and you can only cover so many people. And everybody obviously is going to be focused on AB and Le'Veon. So now you got Juju and James Washington to worry about. That's good. I mean, that could truly, honestly be scarier than what they already are. And that's a scary offense for anybody to try and stop. So I think that was a great pickup. I think James Washington was a great pickup. Like I said, he's humble too. Man, he was humble. I always love watching. I mean, it's bad of me to say, but I always love watching them videos and kids get drafted and they just break down in tears just because they're so happy because they're chosen, and he got chosen Steeler and he loved it. So excited to see what he's going to do. Next pick, my favorite pick of the draft, and I called it. Mason Rudolph from Oklahoma State. He's another big Ben. He's 6'5", 250 pounds, and he's got nimble feet. I think that's Ben's successor. I didn't think we was going to draft Ben's successor in this draft, but we did. And I do think Rudolph can take the reins from Ben, and Ben's going to leave us as a Super Bowl champion, hopefully. And I think Rudolph can pick up and take the reins and just keep us right on going, like Aaron Rodgers did when Brett Favre left. I hope Rudolph's got the patience to sit behind Ben 2 or 3 years, which I do think he will. And I think he's going to earn the starting backup, or he's going to earn the number 1 backup this year. I think in training camp he will earn the backup position. I think we'll get rid of Landry Jones. And I think Josh Dobbs will be the number 3. And I think Josh Dobbs will be Rudolph's backup when Ben retires. I thought maybe Dobbs could have been Ben's replacement, but he just does not show that. I think Rudolph will. I think Rudolph's going to be a great pickup. We drafted his teammate, Washington, which I do think is what Pittsburgh kind of has in mind. Hey, those two click together. They click well. And I think that's the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is Mason Rudolph, James Washington, Antonio Brown, Schuster, and so on and so forth. So I think that's our future offense is Mason Rudolph and James Washington. So we'll see. Really, and I honestly think I'm honestly surprised Rudolph fell as far as he did for us too, because I mean And I know it's because everybody was focused on Darnold and Rosen and Baker Mayfield, and people lost sight of Mason Rudolph, and he slipped through the cracks and into our hands. I think he's just as good, if not better, than those other quarterbacks. He would. We'll see, but I think he'll be the best quarterback out of that draft class. I really do. And I'm not just saying that as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Wherever he went, even if he went to the Bengals, which we stole Rudolph from, which I love. We traded up and stole him right in front of the Bengals, just like they did with us, William Jackson, a couple years ago. So in your face, Bengals. But I do think, I think he. I mean, honestly, even like I said, even if he went to the Bengals, I would have said the Bengals had to steal the draft, the best quarterback in the draft. But he's not a Bengal; he's a Steeler, so take that. Next pickup. This is when I start to get a little questionable. And Okorafor, the O-lineman, not real sure what we were thinking when we drafted him. I know Gilbert's getting up in age, and I know Foster's contract's coming up, but I question that draft pick. But he's a MAC kid from Central Michigan, and as we know now, one of the best players in the NFL. Ben Roethlisberger was in the MAC at Miami of Ohio. And, so was Julian Edelman, and so was James Harrison. I mean, the MAC produces great football players. And so I will be interested to see what Okorafor does for us. I'm not saying I won't forget his name after the season's over. So we'll see. I hope he does. Obviously, I hope he does develop well and plays, maybe starting one day. Who knows? The next pick is Allen from Penn State. Another safety, we drafted two safeties, which is, like I said before, that's why I think that we will try and put Edmonds down into the middle linebacker's position. Allen, I never saw much of Allen. I know he came from Penn State, which was a good defense and had a good secondary, and so I do think maybe he could have an impact somewhere down the line once Morgan Burnett's time's done, and once. Like I said, when his time's done, Allen could maybe be the guy. I don't know. I think he was brought in to develop. I think they saw potential in him. He was brought in to develop, and maybe he could play well. Who knows? Wasn't real sure when we drafted him. Never heard much about him. Watched a few videos on him, and he plays hard-nosed football. So we'll see. We'll see when it comes to him. Next pickup was Jalen Samuels. I actually like the pickup of Jalen Samuels from North Carolina State. Big, strong kid, big fullback. I know we've got the best fullback in the game in Rosie Nix, but you bring in Jalen Samuels, and a couple of years ago we had the two fullback look, and David Johnson and Will Johnson. And they were in goal line situations, so it'll be exciting to see two big fullbacks leading Le'Veon Bell or James Conner at the goal line. I mean that's a nightmare for any defense. I don't care who you are. That'll be hard to stop. Plus, Samuels could end up being a third down back, third and short back. Le'Veon's tired, Conner's unavailable, tired. I do think Jalen Samuels could end up being a third and short back. Why not go back to giving the fullback the ball on fourth down? Now that we have an offensive coordinator, that would probably end up doing it, not Todd Haley. If it was Todd Haley, it was third and short, he'd throw a 60-yard bomb from the goal line. So why not go for a fullback run? Whatever. We're getting off subject here. Jalen Samuels, smart pick. Liked it. The next one was Frazier. Frazier was a good pickup. I think he's going to give Dan McCullers a run for his money for a D lineman. He went to Alabama. We finally drafted an Alabama player, which, if you're a Steelers fan, we never draft anybody from Alabama. Either one, because they're too high up on the draft board, or two, whatever's available from Alabama, we don't need. But we did draft a tackle, Frazier from Alabama. I do think that was a great pickup. I do think he's going to challenge McCullers for either a starting or backup position. I think he's going to. I do think Frazier's going to have an impact right away. Javon Hargrave came late in the draft like that. Now look at Javon Hargrave's a starter. He started as a rookie. Hargrave did have a sophomore slump. If you did notice last season, all three of our sophomores that started the year before that had great years really had a sophomore slump. RDB, Davis, and Hargrave. They just you never heard their name much. But anyway, we'll talk more about that when it comes up to the season. That's our draft. I did not read about who our rookie free agents that we signed. I know we picked up someone from Iowa State as a running back, but I did not see who those names were. I'll have to look into it, maybe talk to you more about it next week. But as of right now, I do not have the names. I don't know who we picked up, and I feel terrible about it, but I'm a busy man. Overall, I give this draft a B+. Now, when we first got into it, and if you would have seen this video Thursday night, I'd have gave it a D or an F, just because I was just so confused of why we picked up a kid from the third or fourth round who we could have gotten in the third or fourth round. But now that I read more into it, I give it a B+. Rudolph, my favorite pickup. Rudolph and Washington, they're in there close to my favorite pickups. Now, who's going to have an impact right away? Edmonds, I do think he'll have an impact right away. I think Washington's going to have an impact right away. Rudolph will not. Rudolph's going to sit under Ben for a while and learn. Ben's going to teach him. Okorafor, I couldn't tell you. Probably not. I'm in doubt that he'll have an impact right away. Allen, same thing. I don't think he's going to have an impact right away. I think Samuels could. I think Samuels and Frazier both could have an impact right away. Maybe not huge ones, but big enough to help us win football games. And that's the only thing that matters. That's it for my post-draft reaction. Next week, I'll get on here and I'll talk to you guys about what I expect us to do on both sides of the ball. I might dedicate one to offense, one to defense, just because it's off season and it's kind of hard to find stuff to talk about during off season. But once training camp starts, and I guess I'll read up on what's going on in training camp, then I can talk to you guys what I think, who's going to impact what, and what's going to happen. So that's it for this week. I know it was a long video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did like it, or if you did enjoy it, you know what to do. Subscribe to me. I'll give you videos like this every week. I'm going to try to be a little more energetic than I was last week. Last week my work schedule changed, and I picked a bad day to start my page. But like I said, if you like this video, subscribe to me. Hey, listen, if you guys are big gamer fans, check out my brother's page, Mr. B and Me. He does like video commentary on his videos, and there's a video when he was playing Resident Evil 7, and I'm telling you, it's great. You need to check it out, Mr. B and Me. Until next week, have a great week, and I'll see you guys next week. Here we go.